Okay, so you know how we love to dig into these big investment portfolios, right?
Yeah.
And you sent us this Motley Fool article
Yeah.
about the Gates Foundation Trust.
Mm-hmm.
It lays out their top holdings at the end of 2024.
Right.
And I thought this would be a perfect deep dive because
Absolutely.
we can really learn a lot by seeing
Where they're putting their money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So much money, too.
Huge sums.
What really struck me, and maybe you too, was just how concentrated the portfolio is.
Yes. It's really interesting, isn't it?
You know, instead of this huge, long list of different stocks,
Yeah.
they really seem to be anchored in just a few.
A few key players, yeah.
Yeah. Really well-known names.
Familiar names.
Familiar names, yeah.
And I think that's what makes it so fascinating to look at.
Right, and for this deep dive, we're going to focus on the top three.
The top three that really jump out at us
Yeah.
from the article, yeah.
So Microsoft,
Of course.
Berkshire Hathaway,
Uh-huh.
and Waste Management.
It's an interesting mix.
It is a really interesting mix.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Let's start with
let's start with Microsoft.
the big one.
The king of the hill, right?
It's almost a given, right?
Yeah.
When you think about it,
Exactly.
Microsoft.
Yeah.
But the article highlights they're holding nearly 28.5 million shares,
Wow.
which comes out to a value of almost $12 billion.
That's a serious commitment.
That's a lot of money.
It is. And, you know, when you factor in Bill Gates' history
Right.
as the co-founder, the
Yeah.
former CEO,
Uh-huh.
it just adds another layer of significance to this whole thing.
It makes you think, right?
Yeah, it really underscores the power of, you know, deep understanding,
Right.
long-term perspective.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a real buy and hold success story.
like sticking with what, but on a colossal scale.
Yeah, exactly.
What I thought was really interesting was that the article pointed out that even a company as giant as Microsoft
That's established as Microsoft
is still,
still seeing. Showing impressive profitability and growth.
yeah, and surprising growth rates too.
Yeah, they're not just coasting.
No, they're not resting on their laurels at all.
No.
And I think what's really fascinating is if you sort of zoom out and think about the future,
Mm-hmm.
you look at their investments in OpenAI
Right.
and the whole AI arena,
Artificial intelligence.
artificial intelligence, it becomes incredibly telling.
Yeah.
This isn't just about their past successes.
Right.
This is about where they see future growth.
The future
Yeah.
positioning themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really a peek into the future.
It's like a bet on the next wave.
Yeah.
And here's a little something extra that I thought was interesting too.
Okay.
Microsoft pays a dividend.
They do.
Currently, it's around 0.8%,
Uh-huh.
which, you know, might not sound huge,
Right.
but when you're talking about a $12 billion stake,
Yeah.
that translates to a lot of income
Oh, absolutely. A substantial amount.
for the foundation.
Steady, reliable return.
Mm.
Which, for an organization of that size,
I mean, it's clearly valuable.
yeah, for sure.
Okay, so moving on
To number 2,
to number 2,
Berkshire Hathaway,
Berkshire Hathaway,
led by the one and only Warren Buffett.
the Oracle of Omaha.
Oracle of Omaha, exactly.
Yeah.
The Gates Foundation Trust
Mm-hmm.
holds just under 19.7 million shares,
Wow.
worth over $8.9 billion.
So this is where the story gets even more interesting, I think.
It does.
Because it's not just about investment returns, right? It's about...
relationships.
Yeah, the article mentioned that Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are good friends.
Very close friends and have been for a long time.
And they championed the Giving Pledge together back in 2010.
Yes, that's right.
So that connection feels pretty significant here.
It adds a whole other layer
Yeah.
to understanding this investment.
And as you noted from the article,
Yeah.
the Gates Foundation actually receives Berkshire Hathaway,
Class B shares?
Class B shares directly from Buffett as part of his giving.
Yeah, as part of his charitable donations. Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing.
It's a powerful illustration of their shared vision
Yeah,
when it comes to philanthropy.
absolutely. So now, Berkshire Hathaway is known for something very different than Microsoft, right?
Oh, yeah. Very
They
different.
have a different investing style.
Yes, very much so.
The article highlighted Buffett's very famous,
Legendary
long-term
buy and hold.
buy and hold approach.
That's his philosophy.
Yeah, and
Mm.
and that's where I thought this was so insightful.
Yes.
Because it's such a contrast to Microsoft.
Totally different.
Ew.
Two very different approaches.
With Microsoft, it's like we were saying, it's this bet on tech innovation,
Yeah, the future of tech.
the future.
Yeah.
But Berkshire Hathaway,
Well, they've held companies like American Express
Right.
for decades, since the 60s.
yeah.
And Coca-Cola,
Hmm.
I mean, approaching 40 years.
Wow.
They believe in these enduring businesses
Yeah.
and a very patient approach to wealth.
It's like diversification, but within their top holdings.
Exactly. It's a diversification of investment styles.
Right. So it's like they're getting
Best of both worlds.
Yeah, the deep tech knowledge with the stability.
Yeah. Future forward thinking, but also that stability.
Yeah.
And long-term value focus.
And there was one other thing I thought was interesting about Berkshire Hathaway.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
They've been really cautious lately about buying stocks.
Yeah, you're right. They have.
You know, they seem to prefer.
They've been putting money into U.S. Treasury bills.
Yeah.
And they have a big cash reserve,
Huge cash position.
which is interesting because they clearly love holding shares.
Right.
They're known for it.
So it makes you wonder, right?
It does make you wonder what they're seeing,
Yeah.
what their perspective is
Yeah.
on the current economic climate.
Yeah. Even Buffett
Even Buffett,
seems to be exhibiting caution.
a little bit of caution.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's noteworthy for sure.
Okay, so on to number 3.
Number 3,
Waste management.
man.
This one might not be as exciting.
Maybe not as glamorous.
Yeah, but still a big deal.
Oh, yeah. A significant holding.
They have over 32.2 million shares,
Wow.
valued at over $6.5 billion.
So what's compelling about waste management
Yeah.
is it's just so necessary.
It's essential.
People need their services.
Yeah.
Constant demand.
Constant demand, yeah.
It's the biggest company in its sector by revenue
The article said over $22 billion in revenue in 2024.
and consistently profitable.
Yes. Net income approaching $2.75 billion.
So it just goes to show you, right?
Yeah.
The value of businesses.
That provide those essential services.
Yeah. And the name is pretty straightforward.
Yeah. You know exactly what they do.
Yeah. And the article suggested maybe there's a connection to Bill Gates' time at Microsoft.
Interesting.
Like maybe he really appreciates a stable and reliable business.
Yeah. A solid foundation.
Yeah. Like he understands the importance of that.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
And something else.
Yeah.
Waste management pays dividends. They do consistently.
Since 1999.
And with annual increases for over 15 years.
And a yield of 1.5%?
Higher than Microsoft.
Higher than Microsoft.
Interesting.
So 2 out of their top 3 holdings
Microsoft and Waste Management.
are big dividend payers.
Yeah. And for the Gates Foundation Trust,
It's a big deal.
those regular payouts would represent a huge,
Reliable.
dependable
Yeah.
stream of funding
For their work.
for their philanthropic activities.
Yeah. Okay, so let's step back for a second.
Take a look at the big picture.
These top 3 holdings,
Yeah.
what does it tell us?
Well, it's pretty telling, isn't it?
It's a lot of concentration.
In very established
I
names.
mean, all your names.
Familiar names.
Yeah.
Microsoft.
It's like a bet on their own legacy.
Yeah.
And future tech leadership.
Right.
Berkshire Hathaway. It's a philosophy of long-term value,
Diversification.
diversification across industries,
Mm-hmm.
and then waste management.
Yeah.
It's a leader in an essential sector.
Good stuff.
It's reliable.
Yeah.
And don't forget those dividends.
Yeah, dividends are significant.
Especially for an organization like this.
It's no small detail.
I mean, it's a huge source of funding for them.
Absolutely.
So this deep dive into these top investments,
What do you think it tells us?
well, it gives us a glimpse
Yeah.
into how this huge philanthropic organization,
We're the biggest in the world.
yeah, manages its money.
It's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
It really is.
And it makes you think.
About their long-term vision,
Yeah.
their priorities.
What do you think?
What does it suggest about different approaches to investing?
Yeah, and wealth management.
Well, I think it raises some interesting questions
Yeah.
about the balance between, high growth potential
All right.
and prioritizing long-term stability
Income.
and income generation.
Yeah.
It also highlights the fact that even at this level of investing,
Right.
there's this tendency
To stick with what they know.
to lean towards those familiar, well-understood entities. It's
Right.
proven track record.
Instead of chasing trends.
Exactly.
It's a good lesson for all of us, I think.
I think so too.
So if you're interested in learning more about the Gates Foundation Trust's investments,
Yeah.
you can check out their 13F filings.
Which are publicly available.
Yeah, it's a quarterly report.
That details their holding.
Yeah, and you can also dig deeper into Microsoft,
Yeah.
Berkshire Hathaway,
All right.
and waste management.
It's a fascinating world out there.
It is, and there's always more to explore.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.